Go ahead.
Yeah, that relates to actually one of our next questions. We had two questions from someone named Dan, and he asks, "What is the difference between you and someone like Singer and Regan?"
Um,
That's a long answer.
Yeah.
well, that's a long answer. I've written a lot about that, and you can read stuff I've written about that. As a matter of fact, the personhood of animals, the book I have coming out from Columbia, addresses that to a considerable degree. And I have an interview coming out in Britain. The Vegan Society is doing that discusses that. But let me just give you a short answer. I distinguish between use and treatment. That is, I think those are two separate issues. Whether we use animals and how we treat them are separate issues. For example, whether we use animals for food at all is a different question from how we treat those animals. So I distinguish the issue of use from the issue of treatment. And my view is we don't have a justification for using non-humans, irrespective of how humanely we treat them. I mean, obviously, it's better to treat them better than treat them worse. I mean, if you're going to commit a murder, it's better to murder somebody and not torture them. But that doesn't mean that murder is all right. And I draw this distinction between use and treatment and say I don't think we have a moral justification for using them. And for me, the issue of treatment is very much a secondary issue. For Peter, he does not view, and again, I mean, I'm compressing a lot of stuff in a short answer, but with the exception of animals like the great apes that Peter thinks are, which is why I think GAP is a problem and why I think GRASP is a problem, because it sort of regards non-human primates as being special or something. But people like Singer view non-human apes as having an interest in life and being different, but by and large, Peter, like Jeremy Bentham, the 19th century philosopher who Peter traces his theory to, Peter and Bentham don't believe that animals have an interest in living. They don't care. An animal doesn't care. I mean, non-human primates might, but all the other animals that we exploit don't really care whether we use them. They only care about how we use them, which is why Peter is able to say that, if we can be conscientious omnivores and we can really treat animals well, it would be okay to eat them, because he doesn't really think that animals have an interest in living at all. Now, I disagree with that. I think that that's crazy. I think that if you're sentient, by definition, you have an interest in continuing to exist, because sentience is a means to the end of existence. So I think that there's a fundamental theoretical problem with Singer's views. But the bottom line is, Singer doesn't think that use per se is problematic. He thinks that the primary issue is treatment. Regan, there are a lot of, Regan believes that in order for an animal to be a member of the moral community, the animal's got to be what he calls a subject of a life. And that, although he's not quite clear on that, that seems to suggest that an animal's got to have cognitive characteristics that go beyond mere sentience. And I think Tom is wrong about that. I think that if you're sentient, if you're subjectively aware, that's all you need to be a full member of the moral community. Regan, I think, thinks that you need to have cognitive characteristics that go beyond mere sentience. And as support for that interpretation of Regan, Tom believes that non-humans have that for non-humans, death is a lesser harm than it is for humans. And I think that's wrong. I don't even know what that means. I mean, I think that for all sentient beings, death is a harm. I may not understand how a non-human interprets death, because language is so. I mean, because I may not. But that's a problem of my epistemological limitation. That's a problem of my limitation. I'm limited. I can't understand. I may not understand what death means to a dog, but I certainly know that the dog regards death as a harm. And to say that death is a lesser harm for non-humans than it is for humans, because death forecloses more opportunities. Because Tom's view is that death forecloses more opportunities for humans than it does for non-humans. that strikes me as being very elitist, because it would suggest that, well, you could also say that death forecloses more harm for intelligent people. I mean, it forecloses more opportunities for intelligent people than it does for less intelligent people. So more intelligent people matter more than less intelligent people. I mean, I find that sort of elitism or perfectionism to be deeply troubling in Reagan's theory. I would also add this. I'm a little confused about what it is Reagan believes, because on one hand he says that he believes in abolition. On the other hand, at his conference last year, The Power of One, which celebrated the ability of the individual to help the oppressed, his keynote speaker was John Mackey from Whole Foods. and I have to tell you, that just puzzles me incredibly. But